Good morning, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to see all of the friendly faces, from the music to the comments about expectations. We are here because these issues matter. 1 in 5 Americans have a disability. When you actually look at the broader disability community, it's about 51% of Americans have some connection to disability. And what is one of the most meaningful and valuable ways to drive inclusion, to offer opportunities? It's employment. Competitive integrated employment for people with disabilities. And I'm so pleased to have Jennifer Sheehy here talking about her work at Dept. So we've got Department of Education covered, and now we're turning to the Department of Labor. So let me here. So just to give you a sense of her professional background, Jennifer Sheehy is the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Office of Disability Employment Policy, which is short for ODEP. The mission of ODEP is to develop policies that increase job opportunities for youth with disabilities, for Americans with disabilities, to promote return to work and collaborate with business. She has a long jacket of hard work across the federal government. She used to work at the Department of Education. Before that, she came to the Department of Education for the Presidential Task Force on the Employment of Adults with Disabilities. She's been a senior policy advisor. She's worked on the White House's Domestic Policy Council, and I'm giving the very abridged version of a very distinguished career in public policy. She earned a BA from Cornell, graduated with honors from Georgetown University, where she received an MBA. And when she was in graduate school, she was a beer seller. And when I say beer seller, she was driving the marketing research in Anheuser-Busch. And she has been in the private sector, she's been in the public sector, she's an amazing leader. She has a long list of awards which I can't read out in its length because I want to get her to talk. So Jennifer, thank you for being here and glad to have you.
Thank you, Philip, and I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm here on behalf of Secretary Acosta, who has shown tremendous support for people with disabilities over the years. And I met him first when he was the head of civil rights at Justice, and one of his priorities was strong enforcement of the ADA, which of course we celebrated last week, 28th anniversary. Thank you to Jennifer, a terrific leader, and also my friend Calvin I saw earlier, and it's a wonderful organization. You guys have done so much in just raising awareness, in particular in this industry, in the media and entertainment industry, is so critical. I think Jennifer has taught me a lot about the influence of media and why it's so important to have people with disabilities represented in employment in the media. And I don't just mean on front of this or on the screen or on the stage, because representative images is critical, but really in the executive offices and in production and direction and set design and stage design. All of that is so important, because the more you work with someone with a disability, the better attitudes are in general. And we've seen it in education, certainly have seen people, kids going to school with other kids makes a huge difference in the way that they interact with people with disabilities later. And so we see it in employment as well. It's the one thing that can really change attitudes. So I want to thank you for having this important topic covered today, and we'll all just talk a little bit about what our office is, what our work does, and how we can work together. I want to recognize Andy Arias, who's here from Dept, and he also has a few acting credentials to his name, and Margie Almanza, who is my colleague in Congressional Affairs at Department of Labor. So thank you guys for being here. So I have been in my role now for about 3 years as kind of filling in the shoes for the Assistant Secretary of the Office of Disability Employment Policy. So I've been acting for more than 3 years, and I think that should give me some kind of, you know, cred in the entertainment and acting industries. I don't know if it quite translates, but perhaps I get points towards my SAG or equity card. But we'll see. We'll see. Our office is a small office in the federal government. We look across all the programs for people with disabilities related to employment in all the departments and in the offices to really look at and make recommendations for policy improvements. So Johnny Collette is one of my colleagues. He talked about systems change. Sometimes what drives systems change is policy improvements. And we know there are many unintentionally conflicting policies that are supposed to support people with disabilities but don't always quite get us to the finish line. As I mentioned, we just passed the 28th anniversary of the ADA last week, and the ADA has had tremendous benefits for people with disabilities. We haven't seen quite the benefits in the employment arena. As the economy recovered, we have seen we've seen 26 consecutive months of job improvements for people with disabilities. So I think we really need to look at how that has happened, and hopefully, all the work that we have all been doing together for so long, I think it's really starting to show some results. But we can't stop here because, as Jennifer said, we still have a very low labor force participation for people with disabilities. And although there are 1 in 5 of us with a disability, really only 1 in 5 people with disabilities is working or involved in the labor force. I was looking up some entertainment industry statistics. So where the employment of people without disabilities in the entertainment industry, the unemployment rate is 9.3. The unemployment rate of people with disabilities is 12.1%. So, and you can see the entertainment industry is competitive. So even for people without disabilities, the unemployment rate is about twice as high, actually a little more than twice as high as for all jobs. But you still see a significant gap for people with disabilities. Again, 1 in 5 people in this country have a disability. In the on stage, the Annenberg report did a study of 800 films. Only 2.4% of the characters in those films had a disability. So we have a long way to go before we have full representation in imagery, acting roles, or people with disabilities in the workplace. So I think we can all kind of work together towards that. Some of the priorities that Secretary Acosta supports for our office now, I'll go through a few of those, but I want to get down to the practical. I think we do, as I said, propose policy solutions and then work with our colleagues here on the Hill or the White House to provide technical assistance to make those changes, turn them into reality. But a lot of the work that we do is theoretical, and Mark Twain said this about theory. In theory and practice are the same. In practice, they're not. So we also make a strong point of doing technical assistance directly with employers and states to see what works, and then get feedback. Make sure that we are listening and that we have mechanisms to get feedback from employers and states so that we can really help them on the practical side with those solutions. So one of the priorities Secretary Acosta has is providing that assistance to states and really focusing more of our funding towards that effort. We have something called the State Exchange on Employment and Disability. This has been operating for a couple of years. We work with organizations like the National Conference of State Legislatures, the National Governors Association, Women in Government, Council of State Governments. They bring their members, interested members, together to address policy for people with disabilities, employment policy. And what we do, we contract subject matter experts to work directly with those states, look at and see what's happening in other states in different areas that they might be interested in, and then bring those best examples to a state that's asking for that assistance, and then work directly on what kind of things need to change in order to replicate that promising practice. We're talking writing, helping them with policies, executive orders for the governors, regulations at the state level or state legislation. And then the states go back and they take what they find helpful and then they adapt it for their systems. Kentucky, I'll give you one example. Kentucky, the governor was so impressed by the work that was being done nationally, he designated a task force to look more closely at Kentucky systems. And a year ago in December, working with our office, the governor, wasn't even a year ago, it was less than that, working with our office, issued their own work matters report in Kentucky with practical strategies for what all of his cabinet agencies could do to increase employment for people with disabilities. When Governor Bevins launched that, many other states saw that and said, hey, I want to jump on this too. And so we are now looking at other states that we can work with. I'd love to tell our congressional members and their teams more about this when it's possible, because we really do want to help you in a non-lobbying way. Just have states come to us and ask us for help on areas that they've identified that they need help in. Another priority for Secretary Acosta is apprenticeships. And how many young people do we have who've just started their careers or about to start their careers? Okay, that's great. So we know that it's hard to start a career. And for people with disabilities, there are so many different benefits, services, agencies involved. I mean, it can be a little overwhelming. There's a comedian, Mitch Hedberg, who said this about following your dreams, because that's really what it's all about. Raising those high expectations, as Assistant Secretary Collette said, making sure kids have ambitious dreams. But when you're talking about following your dreams, Mitch Hedberg said, I'm sick of following my dreams. I just want them to tell me where they're going and I'll hook up with them later. It's really tough. It's a lot of hard work. So we have to help at the federal level collaborate and make it as easy as possible for young people with disabilities. One way to do that is through apprenticeships. And the entertainment industry certainly has great opportunities that could be turned into apprenticeships. We have wonderful tools to take existing apprenticeships and make them more accessible, or to help start apprenticeships and make sure that people with disabilities are included. So think about, set design, production, camera work, directing. Almost any of those jobs could be great apprenticeship types of opportunities. And I think that's important because it's really paid learning. And so you can start your career and get an apprenticeship, work with a company. The company also can see, how you're working and make sure that they provide the supports for you to be successful, and that means accommodations. So let me tell you a couple of resources that we have for any job. When somebody starts a job who has a disability, well, actually, even if you don't have a disability, the first thing you really do is try to figure out the job. And then you try to figure out what you might need personally to help you be successful in that job. It's no different for people with disabilities. Sometimes it means an accommodation or, something to enhance your work. Our office runs the Job Accommodation Network. This is a terrific organization that does one-on-one confidential accommodations consulting. Jan, we affectionately call her Jan. Jan will work with hiring managers, employers, or individuals who are, workers, and take any type of disability in any type of job and give you some tools or strategies to help overcome some of the environmental barriers or just create the job flexibilities that someone with a disability needs. Jan's been in operation for more than 25 years, and they have done more than 300,000 individual consultations. They have great resources on their website. They have, and you can search it by job or industry or disability. And they have terrific on-site resources for employers if an employer wants to bring someone in. So I think it's really worth looking at, especially if you're thinking of, you need some type of assistance yourself. So another wonderful resource for companies, and I see Jim here too, and there's some terrific companies that have made it a serious commitment and have shown action in employing people with disabilities. And I do think now with such a low unemployment rate in our country that employers are doing a lot of different and creative things to recruit the best employees. This is a fantastic time to be a person with a disability looking for work, because now there are many, many more companies, and we know because they are coming to our employer assistance resource network on disability inclusion. That's the resource I wanted to tell you about. All these can be found on our website, dol.gov/ODEP. So if you're an employer, you can work with what we call EARN to institute some of those diversity strategies and inclusion strategies to make sure that your whole company is disability friendly and focused, and that you will attract the top talent whether or not someone has a disability, and be able to make sure that person is successful getting through the application stage, hiring stage, onboarding stage, and then as they advance in their career. It's so important to have a holistic approach to inclusion so that you don't get people on board and then they can't progress. I mean, it doesn't help anyone. So I would encourage anybody to look at those resources. I do want to mention a couple other things. One of one of our very successful priorities is supporting employment first. And this is, as most of you know, a change at the state level that supports moving people from either no job into competitive integrated employment, or taking someone who wants to try community employment and help them be supported in the community, in work, with the benefits that they've come to rely on. And our office also, again, through contract, hires subject matter experts to work with states to show them how public funding sources can be used together to support someone in the community. I'm gonna wrap up shortly. I do want to say we've all talked about opportunity today, and that this is a good opportunity to work together. It's not easy. It's not easy. And Thomas Edison, of course, said this about opportunity. Opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. And I think that's an important thing to remember, that we are gonna have some hard work ahead of us, but it's work worth doing. And actually, with partners like RespectAbility and some of the others here represented, and the employers, the great employers that are really focused on hiring people with disabilities, it will be fun work. Thank you very, very much.